Hello, you beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got lots and lots of people on this call today, and it's interesting. It's obviously a subject that a lot of people are really interested in. And I have to say, I'm not entirely surprised, because I think what happens is that so many of us over the years bolt on another discipline, and we bolt on another discipline, and it's a fantastic thing to do, because it does make us even more rounded as practitioners, and it really does help to sort of, I think it helps us, I think, from the practice perspective, but also from the business development side of things, because obviously the more that you can offer, so much the better. Having said that, though, it's no bad thing to specialize in just one discipline at all, and many practitioners do incredibly successfully. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining today, and we've got our lovely CMA Vice President of Membership, Roberta Macmillan, with us. There you can see her there. Fab. Okay, so let's get cracking. I have to say also that I have received a couple of, well, more than a couple of emails with some super questions on there. So as always, if you would like to launch your chat box as well, excuse me, because obviously we can then, sort of exchange messages, and as questions come up, we can actually answer the questions. Joe Baker, as you know, is the CMA's political advisor. Joe says, sorry, he can't be here. He's actually teaching right now, which is really good. Oh, Joe, you're waving. Ah, okay. I don't know. Can you guys see Joe?
Hi, Janie. Hi, Roberta. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I can't be with you. I'm online teaching, so I just wanted to give everybody a wave.
Oh, that's fab, Joe. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's lovely to see you. See you later, love. All the best. Thanks.
Hi, Joe.
Okay, and we've got a couple. Oh, Roberta says hello. Caroline says hi, everybody. And Sandra says, can you let us know about the member who makes websites? Yes, that is CMA member Mark Spooner. So Mark is absolutely lovely, and excuse me, and he's a super duper website guy, and he's a real people person. So if you need a website developed, then Mark is great to speak to. Roberta, are you able to put Mark's website or email details in if you have them to hand? That would be really super. And yeah, so he's fine for you to contact him. He's a lovely, lovely chap, and he's not one of these scary sort of geeky people who doesn't speak people language. You can actually talk to him as a practitioner. He's a practitioner himself, so we're all speaking the same language. So there we go. So yeah, so we recommend him because we've looked at the sites he's developed for other people, and we do think they're really, really good. So by all means, have a chat with Mark. You may decide to go with him. You may decide to go with somebody else. That's up to you, but at least he's a good starting point anyway. I hope that's helpful. So right, I'm going to have to do some screen sharing, not right now, but in a little bit, because I made lots of copious notes, as I always do for these sessions, and my brand new printer is not working. There's a conflict between Hewlett-Packard and Adobe, and they don't play nicely together. So I've spent hours and hours trying to get that sorted out. So not to worry, it doesn't matter entirely. We can screen share, but what I wanted to do first of all is to say that we have got all sorts of different audiences. If let's say, okay, hypothetical situation. Let's say that you have done the work that I really encourage you to do on creating your avatar. Now, as you know, your avatar is your ideal dream client, the client that you would love to have, the client that would just make your life an absolute joy. You'd find that you were never working another day for the rest of your life because my goodness, you know, you're having so much satisfaction and joy from working in your practice, you can't really call it work. So that's why we do the avatar work. And then you may find, if you've done that work, and if you haven't yet done it, don't forget, you can go over to the CMA YouTube channel, and we made a really lovely video for you last year as one of our lockdown tutorials on exactly how to create and identify your ideal client, your avatar. An avatar, for those of you who haven't yet done this work, is essentially, it's a notional made up person who embodies the qualities of this perfect client, this ideal client. You know, they turn up on time, they're polite, they're interested, they're engaged, they're invested in getting well, they want to work with you, and all the rest of things. And ideally, they are coming to you because they are presenting with symptomatology that you really get excited about working with. So that's why we do that exercise. Now, the interesting thing about avatar work is that, and the reason that we do it, is because what it does is it helps to shape our marketing messages. Because if you do the work, as I have explained to you in that previous video, you'll end up creating this outline, very detailed outline of this particular person. And then the next step is, how do we use the avatar? Well, what we do is we imagine ourselves sitting across a table, having a cup of tea with the person, and just having a chat about what it is that's going on for them at the moment. What are the problems that they're suffering with right now? What's the solution that they're seeking? What are their pain points? Now, when I say pain points, I don't mean necessarily physical pain. What I mean is, what are the difficulties that they're facing at the moment? What is it that sort of wakes them up at 3 o'clock in the morning where they're thinking, oh my goodness me, you know, I've got a disastrous situation here, I need to get it sorted out. All of those things. Now, as you know, I always do ask you to do quite a lot of mental gymnastics. And this is one of these mental gymnastics episodes. And so, you know, when we do this work, what actually happens is that we end up being able to shape our marketing messages so that we're using the language that appeals to this person. Now, the question that's always asked at this point is, but that's so specific. If I drill down to be this specific with this one person, I'm only going to appeal to that one person. But the truth of the matter is that actually what happens in the real world in practice is that if you can create the marketing language and a deep understanding of the emotional messages and the type of marketing and messaging on your website, your brochures and so on, that this particular avatar or ideal client will respond to, then you know what, you've got a really streamlined message that you'll be able to put out there, and you will attract people exactly like that. You will know precisely where they hang out online. You know precisely where they hang out in the real world. Obviously, right now that's less relevant for us, but when COVID disappears, as I'm certain it will at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, again, you'll be able to get your marketing out into the real world. You'll be able to go and give public talks and all of that as soon as we are allowed out, I will be teaching you, believe you me, because it is one of the best ways of getting new clients. You can still do them online. So this is the thing. You may feel that the idea of creating an avatar is limiting you, but actually it doesn't. It enables you to really hone your marketing message. So then what happens if you do the avatar work and you've got your one particular avatar and you think, yes, but I also want to do this with this totally different type of person. So, for example, here's an example that I often give because it works well and it's easy to sort of grasp the concept. What if you love working with mums who've just had babies, and it fits beautifully within the work that you do, and you love the idea of working with, well, when we're eventually allowed back to work, things like mother and toddler groups or mum and, sort of the child NCT type groups and so on. Okay, so, that's a very clear kind of person that you want to appeal to. And because of the particular constraints, or, those mums have just given birth and so on, so you've really drilled down to really specializing in helping those particular women. But you also have another really interesting little niche and a really interesting avatar. Let's say you also have this particular desire to work with weekend warriors. Again, not terribly relevant right now, but it's just bear with for the time being, because it's just going to illustrate a point. So the weekend warriors are rugger buggers who run around a pitch for a couple of hours on a Sunday morning and then do absolutely nothing for the rest of the week by any form of exercise at all. So what's happening is they're getting sports injuries and they're getting bruises, they're getting knocked about, and they perhaps actually maybe want to improve their sports performance and so on. So two completely different groups. With the mums, you might be working with things like aromatherapy, perhaps homeopathy, a bit of massage, that sort of thing. With the rugger buggers, you're probably going to be doing things like a bit of homeopathy, a bit of possibly sports massage, whatever it is, the discipline, perhaps a bit of acupuncture, whatever the discipline is that you work with. Okay, now I appreciate in this group, we're all multidisciplinary practitioners and we all do different things, but I'm just using these two different demographics to give you an idea of just how diverse your two separate avatars, your two ideal clients might be. And if it's the case that you want to build a practice where you are appealing to both of those different types of people, how the heck do you get that messaging across? Here's the thing. What you need to do is you need to understand that you've got to do the avatar work really carefully with both, because if you remember back to, I'm going to share screen. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay. Let me just share this. This was from a PowerPoint that I did last year. Okay. And what I wanted to do was to explain just how you as a company can have multiple brands. Okay. So one of the examples I gave you, because it's a really clear example, is that many companies have different brands for different targeted markets. Car manufacturers, for example, have a luxury brand model for wealthy customers, while at the same time having a low-cost brand for customers with smaller disposable income. So, for example, if you go to the Audi website, what happens is you initially hit the Audi branded website, and then they are very clever about funneling you off into the direction that they think that you want to go in. Okay, so you've got somebody, let's say somebody who wants to look at SUVs, and then you've got somebody else who wants to look at an Audi R8, for example. It's very important not to confuse the various brands or end up killing the brand website by overloading people with a lot of visual language. So what I would suggest you do, bear with me, I'm going to come back to you now. Okay, what I would suggest you do is that you very clearly understand your messaging first. So you can certainly go back, look at the avatar video, that's the word, and also look at the niche video, creating a niche video. Both of those are worth revisiting. And I do say, actually, both these concepts are very plastic, they're very dynamic. And so in your practice, and especially as things have developed throughout COVID, you will find that your avatar changes and your niche changes, and the way you deliver your treatments, of course, has changed dramatically. So, I do suggest you go back and look at those. But the idea is that if you can create a website, for example, which acts as your portal. Now, one of the most important things with websites is, first of all, how do people find them? People find a website if you do something called search engine optimization. SEO is a very important discipline, and if you've created your own website through Wix or Weebly or one of those, what actually happens is that they have certain parts of their building website where you can actually do search engine optimization. And it actually guides you through how to do that. Or, going back to the initial question, if you perhaps work with a website designer, Mark Spooner, that we spoke about earlier, for example, they will be able to really adequately and effectively optimize your website so that when somebody puts in aromatherapist Chorley Wood, then you will suddenly pop up right at the very, very top of the listings. Okay, so that's what search engine optimization actually does for you. So what you've got to do behind the scenes when you're a multidiscipline practitioner is you've got to make sure that you are incorporating very good descriptions about what you do and how what you do helps people, using real language. Don't try to game the system by saying, for example, what we could do to try to game the system would be Complementary Medicine, Complementary Medical Association, Association of Complementary Medicine, Complementary Medicine Association, Complementary Medical Association, and so on. And so just using kind of keywords that are even misspellings, common misspellings of keywords, which complementary, of course, is always misspelled and people put an I in it instead of the E's. So don't try to game the system, because the search engines now are so sophisticated that they pick up on people trying to game the system by using all sorts of crazy keywords, not in sentence structures, and you will be demoted for trying to cheat effectively. So using real sentences. I am an aromatherapist who works with new mothers, and I am an aromatherapist and acupuncturist who works with people who play sports at the weekend, and I specialize in rugby players, that sort of thing. So using that real language, the artificial intelligence, which is now so sophisticated, will understand that you're a real person, you're not a spammy, tacky website. That's the other thing they're really, really keen to guard against, and that you are definitely populating your site with decent information. So that's the first thing. So that's thing one with search engine optimization, and it really, really will help you to do that. So please take a look at what's going on, what's the messaging behind the scenes in your SEO section of your website. If this is kind of blinding you with science, my apologies, but don't worry, because if it is blinding you with science and it's not something you feel that you can do yourself, no matter, go and speak to a web designer, and as I say, perhaps Mark or somebody else, then they'll be able to assist you. So you don't have to take any of this on yourself to do personally, but you do need to be very clear about your messaging. That's your job, is to be super, super clear about your messaging so that you can go to your web designer and say, look, this is what I want to get across. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do on our website, so ideally, I would love to see you putting up a welcome page that talks a little bit about what you do. Now, please remember, it's absolutely crucial that you don't just blabber on about you know, I do aromatherapy and I do acupuncture and I do this and I do that. Because those, remember, okay, those words are jargon. Now, the sad fact is that anybody that's looking for your services out there doesn't actually want to know what you do. They don't want to know that you're terribly clever and you've got a gazillion, you know, qualifications from, you know, from here to kingdom come. They don't need to know that. What they need to know, more importantly, is how you've been able to help people like them. So let's say if you had identified these two different types of individual that you would like to work with, that's the messaging that you've got to get out there. It may be more than two different types of individual. It may be several different types of individual. So you might perhaps think about having your shop window, your homepage, saying something along the lines of, I work with many different types of individual, and here are some of the ways that I've been able to help them. And then you create really clear testimonials. You might want to segment different parts of your homepage so that somebody, let's say you've got your rugger-bugger coming along and he's not suddenly put off by the fact that you're talking about mother and toddler groups, or your mother and toddler group lady, your NCT lady is not hitting your site and going, oh, she only works or he only works with rugby players. So you've got to partition, find a clever way of partitioning your homepage so that the information is right there front and center. Now, I'm going to talk to you about a really controversial point right now, and that is this above the fold and below the fold. In newspaper, in printing, and newspaper publication terminology. It used to be held in marketing that you would have to put your lead story above the fold, because do you remember how back in the day when newspapers, say pretend this is a newspaper, newspapers were sold folded up, weren't they, on the newsstands? You know, the old evening stand, and you have the man out in the street going, "Stanner!" In London, it was every time I used to come out of work in London, you know, that would be the refrain. So newspapers, if you can imagine, were folded up and they would have their lead story above. This is the fold, and they'd all be stacked on top of each other, so you could actually see the lead story, the most fascinating story of the day. And so this is an interesting thing because it does translate to websites. Less so, but still, I strongly feel you've got to get your most important messaging visible on your web page before the person has to scroll down your web page. If somebody hits your website, think of it like this. If somebody hits your website and they cannot immediately see something that speaks to them directly without having to scroll, then sorry, but with the best will in the world, you've lost them. Because people won't scroll unless they have a damn good reason to start scrolling down your website. So personally, I would lead with things like, you know, injuries. I work with people with injuries. I work with new mums, and then I've got testimonials right up there. Perhaps a slider. Now, sliders work really well on websites, so people can actually see testimonials shooting past them. Make sure it's not running too fast that they say they can't read it. But this is a really good way of implying and getting the point across that you work with multiple different types of people. Please do not lead on your website with, hello there, I'm a homeopath, I'm a psychosynthesis counsellor, and I also work with people with acupuncture and herbal medicine, because quite honestly, that's so difficult for your site visitor to process, because what they don't see is how it applies to them. You've got to understand, by understanding your avatar, by doing that avatar work, you've got to be able to get messaging out to them about how what you do helps them. Okay, it's the one I always talk about. I know that many of you have been with me for so many years and you've seen me speaking at Cam Expo and so on, doing those business clinics that we used to do at Cam Expo. And, you know, I always used to put up my big slide, which is what's in it for me? Honestly, if you can answer that question on your website, that's all you need to do. Then you've got a website that is worth an absolute fortune. It's solid gold. You're getting your information across. So that's the reason we do the avatar work, because when you're having that imaginary conversation across a table, having a cup of tea with your avatar, what they want to know is what's in it for me. So they're going to ask you, okay, that's great. That's great, Mary. That's great, John. Okay, so you've told me what you do, but what's in it for me? How does what you do help me? So I want to stop at the moment. Now, is this clear so far? Can you let me know if you've got any questions so far? If things aren't clear, can you either unmute yourself, or if you can actually just write in the questions, that would be fine as well in the chat box. And at this point, I'm going to stop just to see if anybody has asked any questions in the chat box. Okay, just bear with me a second. By the way, I've also got I've got a question from our lovely Charlotte Nightingale, and I've also got a question from, I think, a lady called Sue messaged me earlier. I'll come on to those in a minute. I've got them written down. Again, as I said earlier, if you came in late, I couldn't even print them out because my printer's gone berserk. So let me just have a quick look at the questions now. Okay, great question. Joanna says, what do you do if you have different audiences? I run well-being sessions in schools, but also sound baths and shamanic work for a more hippie audience. Yeah. Should I have different websites? Optional. You can do, but let me think about that. Actually, yes. In that case, because your audiences, you see, you've got to also, this is a very, very, very good question. She's running well-being sessions in schools and running sound baths and shamanic work for a very different audience. In actual fact, it may be that because you're promoting something into schools, schools have a very clear-cut kind of messaging that they respond to. They've got all sorts of rules and regulations about who can and can't work in schools. And so actually, you may be potentially doing yourself a disservice by trying to incorporate the more shamanic kind of hippie type stuff, as you put it. So actually, in your situation, I would separate out the two and have two different websites. Get super, super clear on your messaging for both of those. I know it's kind of tricky, but you know, actually, you can create a couple of websites. You can use the same template for both websites, but you can change the coloring. For example, with your sound baths and shamanic work, you might want to go for really earthy tones or more sort of ethereal tone colors and an ethereal palette, depending on who your avatar is. Are they a really grounded kind of person of the earth, or are they much more sort of angelic and spiritual and so on? So that's what you need to know to create your look and feel and emotion of the website. With the schools, you probably want to have the messaging about how you can help them, but then you probably then also want to lead with qualification to really establish the fact that you're an official person, that you're really sanctioned, which may not then appeal to your more ethereal kind of sound bath type audience. So that is a very good example. Thank you for raising the question, because that legitimately can be done with two different websites. I would go that way if I were you. And you know what? Websites are very inexpensive. I think when I was speaking with Mark, he said that he charges something 150 pounds, something like that, for a basic website. You know, so honestly, there's no reason why you shouldn't. And you can search engine optimize both of those very, very differently. So I would think very carefully about that, and I think it's a brilliant strategy, a brilliant way to go. So thank you for asking the question. That's excellent. Everybody's saying clear so far. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Let me please. Oh my goodness, Linda's a new member. Hello, lovely. Do you know what? We had over 30 new members of the CMA this week. Poor Roberta Roberta has not left her desk this week, and today is supposed to be Roberta's day off, but she's not been able to. I owe Roberta big time. But you know, Roberta is just amazing. So thank you for being here, Roberta. As always, you're just incredible. But yeah, honestly, the CMA is just going great guns. And please, everybody, you know that we are so here for you, 110%. We go, and the reason I say, you should never say above 100%, should you? But I always say 110% because we do actually kind of, we hear the call of duty and then we try to exceed it. So if you've got friends and colleagues who you think could benefit from being a member, please, please tell them about us. Please ask them to join, because, you know, there is great strength in numbers. And just last week, there was that massive pop against homeopathy from the skeptics and so on. So, you know, honestly, this is why we've all got to be out there doing the best we can and getting our messaging right so that we can get more clients, so that we can help more people. You know, I always talk about that ripple effect, don't I, of how we help one person, that dramatically changes their life, and then they, you know, they're happier and healthier, which impacts their family, it impacts their friends, and so on. And, you know, because of that, we're making massive contributions to society. So please never forget that. Never forget how valuable you are. In fact, that reminds me, on the website, on the YouTube channel, there is a really important video there on setting your fees. If you've not seen that yet, please do yourself a favor and go and watch it or rewatch it, because I talk in that a lot about the value that you bring to the world and how to really drill down and really understand the value of what you do and the transformation you make. Do it, because it's important work. Right, okay, let's have a little look. Catherine, hello, my lovely Catherine. Is it a good idea to have different websites for different things? There you go. We sort of covered that. Excuse me one sec while I have a little sip of my oolong tea. Oh. Oh boy, I've been needing this. It's been one of those days. I haven't had enough cups of tea today. Just bear with me. And I need another sip. That was so good. Totally off topic, but I'm drinking oolong tea because it's been found to dramatically improve your cognitive functioning while also burning visceral fat. Very important. It's particularly me because I've been sitting doing so much work and I've not been exercising enough, and I've been packing the pounds on around my tummy, and we all know visceral fat is highly toxic. And yeah, so that belly fat, it's just been discovered that IL-6, that pro-inflammatory cytokine, is actually created in belly fat and visceral fat. So we don't want it. We've got to get rid of it. So oolong tea does that, and it doesn't keep you awake at night. Happy days, win-win. Totally off topic, but I just thought you might like to hear about that and why I'm drinking oolong. So yes, Catherine, is it a good idea to have different websites for different things? Yes, it depends entirely. If your messaging really hangs on particular design values, for instance, Catherine, if you were creating if you wanted to get messaging out to take your work into a incredibly corporate environment, I would, and your other work was, let's say, working with toddlers, okay, then I think there is definitely a rationale for having another website. So have two separate websites. I would, in your case, don't try to do an Audi, because where you've got, you know, the SUV and the low-end Audi and the high-end R8 Audi and so on, it can become too confusing. And if you are trying to hit corporate clients, for example, you are in a highly competitive field. Because everybody wants massive corporate clients. Well, not everybody, but lots of people want corporate, you know, high-paying corporate clients. And it's a really good business model if you can get into corporates. But you've got to really make sure that your messaging is highly corporate. You've got to reflect. It's about being relatable. So, for example, if you contacted, let's say, I don't know, Barclays Corporate Services, and you said, no, I've got a website, and you sent them to this sort of angel website with all sort of smells and bells going on, they're going to take one look at that and go, nah, that doesn't really fit with what we're trying to do here. So, you know, I always say, don't I, you know, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. It's the same for your website. Think about who you want to target, and think about the design elements and the emotion that you want to portray as a result. So, you know, if you're a multidiscipline practitioner, as most of us are, you've got to really think about that very clearly. If you are leading with you as the brand, here's the other time that this may not be true. If you are leading with you as a brand, because over the years you've written books, you've been on television, you've written for newspapers and so on and so forth, then, for example, you might take a look at my personal website, janiegoddard.com. If you go and take a look at my website, it's basically, hello, I'm Janie, this is what I do. A lot of my website is very much geared around my latest book, Rewind Your Body Clock. And I've got a biological age tracker and things like that, all sorts of things people can do, loads of free gifts and so on and so forth. The reason I've done my website that way, because I'm a multidiscipline practitioner, I don't even talk about what I do. I don't talk about being a homeopath or doing mind-body medicine or lifestyle medicine or any of the other disciplines I do. I simply present myself, if you like, as the brand, because I've, over the years, over the last 3 decades in complementary medicine, I've done enough things out there to actually grow my brand per se. So people are hitting my website as a result of seeing me in various media, and so they turn up on the website, they sign up for any of my lead magnets, ebooks, meditations, downloads, all sorts of different things. They then go onto my mailing list, and then I send them a weekly newsletter telling them about my latest article, my latest blog post, and so on. Because ultimately, what I'm going to be doing with that list is suggesting to them they might like to do this latest course that I've put together on an aspect of Rewind Your Body Clock and so on. So that's my strategy, and I'm more than happy to share the way that that works for me. And so I've got testimonials on my site, but I've also got a banner across the bottom of logos: BBC, The Times, Daily Mail, ITV, Channel 5, British Medical Journal, The Lancet, Scientific American, New Scientist, and so on. So if you've been in any media, get those on your website, because they are very good for credibility. That's hugely important. Okay, so so there's that. Now, the only thing is, right, okay, so Vanessa, sorry, I was going to say something just caught my eye and panicked me for a second. I'll come on to that in a minute. So getting that social proof through testimonials and also those logos, company logos of where you've been featured, is really important, including, don't forget to include the CMA logo. You know, if you're a CMA member, shout it from the rooftops, because the CMA, as you know, is deemed to be the lead organisation in the field. Even the UK government, gov.uk, has actually basically said, yes, the Complementary Medical Association has interpreted the legislation correctly. Do look to the CMA to find out what you should be doing. So, you know, so the CMA is well and truly up there as the lead body. Now, the reason I just had a slight panic was because Vanessa just said, I've only just managed to get onto Zoom and get audio. Have we recorded? Yes. As soon as I saw that out of the corner of my eye, I went, oh my gosh, has this recorded? Yes, it has. It, thank goodness it auto-recorded. So that's a bit of a relief. So don't worry, my love, it's all recorded, and it's been a lot of information so far. So do go back and check it. Now, Roberta has sent me a very, very good reminder. With your website, whether you have one website or two separate websites, depending on how you want to handle your messaging, on your websites, make sure that you put the CMA logo prominently and make it a clickable link so that somebody can mouse over it, click it, and be taken to the Complementary Medical Association website. Because remember also, we have given you your own page on the CMA website that links directly to your website. Now, what this does, this cross-pollination of links back and forward to our individual websites, is this also massively contributes to your search engine optimization and your rankings on the search engines as well. So by having a high value website such as the CMA, when I say high value, what I mean is that we've got 7,500 pages. The CMA ranks #1 when you put in complementary medical, organization, professional membership association in complementary medicine, natural health, what have you. Any of those permutations of search terms, the CMA comes up #1. So that's why it's a high value, high ranking website, because we link to you. You also get hoiked all the way up the search engines. Okay, so it's really, really important that you include the CMA logo, also because our market research shows that the CMA logo is highly recognized by just members of the public and the medical profession. So again, credibility, that's what having those logos is all about. It's all about credibility. Testimonials, all about credibility, but certainly make sure that that logo, when you use it, is a clickable link. If you don't know how to do that, that's absolutely fine. Get a webmaster who can do it for you. It's a 30-second job, if that. Okay, it's really easy to do. So just make sure you note to self, do it. Okay. Now, right. Okay, let's have a little look. Carol Ann says, I have two avatars. Getting tongue-tied here. I have two avatars, private for clients that require therapies, i.e. gym. Caroline, I think that may have cut off before you finished your question. Could you possibly restate it? Because it's just sort of like leaving me hanging. So if you don't mind just re-asking, that would be really, really helpful. Right, okay, yes, thanks, Roberta. Right, okay, very clear, right. We've got, actually, oh my goodness. Yes, you're asking about membership. Really, really tricky to say because we've got so many different membership categories and all the rest of it. So we'll need to actually come to that. Roberta says we've nearly 150. Actually, Roberta, I thought it was well over 150 course providers. So no, I thought it was closer to about 168 or so. But anyway,
it may well be. That was off the top of my head.
Yeah, no. I think it's higher. But anyway, you and I, we can argue the toss on that. But yes, and of course, obviously, don't forget everybody that a course provider or a college or a training school, it's all the same thing. Basically, if it's somebody who's set up a training course, you're then a course provider. You could also be called a training school or a college. And of course, you don't just have to have one course. You can send us lots and lots of different courses for assessment and accreditation. Very, very sensible to get your CMA accreditation because that makes you, again, more findable. And again, it's all about credibility as well. So that's great. Yes, we've got corporate members as well. And Caroline says, yes, it's a long question. I thought you were cut off, Caroline. Start again, she says. I have two avatars. Private clients that require therapists for sports injuries, and my second avatar are patients that have cancer and life-altering illnesses that are referred to me via NHS professionals from a charity I work for. These patients receive a course of up to 6 complementary therapies. They often wish to continue the therapies where I then find it hard to charge them the full amount. How do I resolve this? Okay, I do also do corporate, which I have no problem advertising and charging. Good. It's the cancer is her problem because they're used to receiving treatment for free. No, you haven't gone off track, Caroline. Thank you. It's a really, really good question. It does tie into what we've been talking about. Very difficult, because one of the problems we face in complementary medicine is that because people, our patients, are used to getting things for free at point of delivery, that's the NHS, things are free at point of delivery. It's a very, very difficult thing to actually make that transition. So what I would suggest you do is go back to the tutorial I did on setting your fees, because it's all about the value of the service or the transformation you provide. And I do think that there is some legitimacy in saying to the cancer patients that you could take a donation, for example, and leave it up to them. Now, it's a very interesting thing, because Dr. Frank Sabatino, whom you met last week, I think it was it last week or week before? Time flies, doesn't it? When we were talking about research in complementary medicine, Frank he's a chiropractor and does all sorts of other work as well. And his model, and he learned this from a very famous chiropractor who was very much a spiritually driven man. He had an entire practice where there was a box on the wall and people would just leave a donation. They would donate whatever they could afford, whatever they felt was right for the service. The man was giving them wonderful treatment and he wasn't turning anybody away. This man was busy as busy can be. And Frank does the same thing, and he has a pay by donation. And he finds that it works. Now, I personally do believe in setting your scale and making it known that you might have suggested donation for your time, that sort of thing. So I would say that it's important to set expectations so that people know more or less what they should be paying. But particularly with the cancer patients, I'm not talking about the corporate people or anybody like that. If they're corporate and anybody else, then you've got to set your fees, and you've got to set a really good professional fee. If you've got former charity patients, then you should set an expectation and say, this is what I charge, and because of your situation, I understand you may not be working and so on, but please don't assume that people can't afford it. That you're making big assumptions there, and a lot of the time a lot of people feel that if they don't pay for something, then they don't really feel that they can ask for your services or ask for your support. So that's really important to remember. Okay, so I would set expectations and say that this is what you put your fees on your particular information page for them, and say, I can accept donations. And you will probably find that people will contribute what they can comfortably afford, but it will be far more than you might expect, rather than just setting your fees incredibly low. I wouldn't do it, because this is all about an exchange of energy. And if you feel taken advantage of, then you're not going to be giving of your best, are you? So just remember that. If you feel that people cherish your work and they honor your energy, then that energetic exchange is comfortable for everybody. Does that make sense? I hope so. If you need clarification on that, that's Caroline, does that actually? She's just said, I'll check the tutorial you mentioned. I do charge them after the complementary treatment, but at a reduced rate. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but I would look into this model of contribution as well. So it's just a thought. It may chime with you, it may not. Up to you, but it's worth letting people know and trying it. Right. Okay, Carol Ann says, no, sorry. Oh, Roberta says, going back to what we were talking, 188 schools and colleges. Whoa! She says, she just can't get the staff, can you, these days? Oh, my goodness, no. You know we treasure you, Roberta. 188 schools and colleges registered. That's absolutely amazing. So Amal says, so lovely and helpful to be checking in on this subject. Thank you. Oh, how lovely, Amal. Thank you so much. That's lovely. I'm really glad. You know, as always, we really, really try to make things as useful and actionable as possible. Now, I've got a couple of questions. I'm going to go back to share my screen. As I said to you earlier, I can't print at the moment, so it's just driving me batty. So bear with me one sec. Let me go to, yes, I popped it in a Word doc. And I know that we had a question from our lovely Charlotte. So just over here. Charlotte has a few questions, so let me address these for you. So in fact, before I do that, I'm going to have a sip of my cup of tea. And for those of you just joining, I know a few people are joining late. The reason we've got, I don't know if you can see cars, motor cars here. You may be able to see, you may not. If you can, don't panic. I haven't gone petrol head all of a sudden. Right, it's just we were talking earlier about different branding messages on the same website. So our lovely Charlotte says, just a few questions which have possibly been addressed. I've not offered any face-to-face counselling sessions for the longest while. It's been mainly phone and Zoom. Fine. Some clients prefer to see me personally, and I do as well. I couldn't agree more. Same for me, absolutely. I can maintain a 2.5 metre distance in my therapy room plus COVID precautions. Question, do we need to wear masks during the session? I hate the bank robber image. Yeah, absolutely. Also, we miss a lot of nuances in facial expression. Right, okay, so you've actually almost answered the question, do I need a small screen between me and the client? If you choose to go maskless, yes, I would strongly suggest using a screen, strongly suggest that. We are supposed to mask up, aren't we? If we're in the same household, that's the current government guidance. So I know that we miss nuances and it's very, very difficult, but you know, we're living in very difficult times. So Charlotte, please err on the side of safety, both health-wise for you and your client, but also legally and ethically as well. I think it's important for the time being to keep a mask on. Can I use a screen instead of the masks? At the moment, you're not supposed to. I personally would put a screen up and then, you know, if you can maintain even greater distance. The thing that worries me, Charlotte, if I have to be completely honest with you, coming from my heart, I think, and I know that the government guidance is not terribly clear, but I think what we've got to do is do our best to interpret it. And the idea is that we're supposed to maintain a 2 metre distance, and inside we are supposed to wear masks. So I think for the time being, please err on the side of caution, professionally and personally, and just mask up for the time being. I know it's horrid, but we're living in some really, really challenging times. And then the next one was from Sue. She's coming back into I love this question. Thank you, Sue. The lovely questions coming in, and thank you, Charlotte. I'm coming back into part-time homeopathic practice after 20 years absence. Brilliant to have you back. We love that. I qualified in 1989. Gosh, that's even before me, and I thought I've been practicing a long time. And I worked for 11 years. I've refreshed a lot of my original training and some new training as well. Brilliant. I'd like to be very real to anyone who comes to see me. As I also love the tarot, I've been wondering whether I could combine both if a client was agreeable, or whether the two are not close enough, so I'd put potential clients off. I will want to say something about tarot and working as a funeral celebrant in the About Me section on the website I'm currently putting together. Yes, can I cover some of these diverse aspects? And then she goes on to say, I think you and the CMA are doing an amazing job. Thank you. Thank you. That's absolutely lovely. Thank you so much, Sue. Really lovely. Right. So I'm back again. Now, it's really interesting because Tracy Ann Ferris. Yes, you're here today. Hi, Tracy Ann. Hello, my love. You do tarot as well, don't you? I know that, and I know you've created a beautiful deck. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because some people are very pro. They love the idea of consultation with a little something extra. But they're also, I have people who are very strictly have other paths or religious paths, and they don't want to have anything to do with tarot at all. So I'm actually quite quiet about it, but I do have a little bit of information on the website, but I keep it quite quiet actually, Janie, to tell you the truth. But I wait till people approach me and they go, and when they finally have a consultation with me, they go, oh, what are those? And I say, oh, that's some tarot cards with a homeopathic theme that I designed, and they're interested. And when they ask me about them, I say, well, I've developed this tarot that's not occult. It's very feminine, it's very light, it's very coherent, and its main theme is healing. So I talk about it. I think I talk about it, but people are intrigued and they're curious. They're not frightened. So I'd be quite brave about it, actually. I've also written an article about it and done an interview with a homeopathic magazine, which I hope got rid of the occult aspect, and people were a bit warmer towards it. So
that is really, really helpful. Thank you so much. What I was going to say was that, oh, no, I know. I wanted to ask you something first, Tracy-Ann. If you can unmute yourself, my darling. Could you just, because I know loads of people will be really interested in this, can you tell everybody how they would be able to get these? I've seen your cards on Facebook and online and so on. They are absolutely beautiful. And, you know, the thing about tarot is that it's, you know, there is a legitimate place for tarot within the field of complementary medicine, because if you think about it, Jung, he delved into archetypes and was using tarot as part of his archetype work. So it does actually have a legitimate place in psychotherapy, so and psychiatry even.
Yeah. So I just say it's nothing to do with fortune telling. I say it's reflective.
Yes,
and that's the big word, reflective. Because homeopaths often are reflective anyway, we bounce back a lot of the patient. So I say it's reflective, and sometimes it helps give someone focus during the consultation.
Fabulous. So Tracy-Ann, how do people get these? Would you like to maybe put your details in the chat box?
I could put, yeah, my website in the chat box, and then they can have a look on it.
Please do so. Yeah, so people can actually get the cards if they would like to do so. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. So Sue, I hope that's useful and a good response. I'm sure it is. So
thank you.
Oh, you got great. Oh, that's thank you, Sue. Yes. Was that? Did you find that answered your question?
It's the whole your whole talk so far has been really helpful, and yeah, Tracy, I'd like to make contact with you at some point. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. I'm glad it's useful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So now there was, I think I saw something come up. Right, okay. Oh, I know what I was going to say actually. So just to finish off the thought on your question was that don't forget on the CMA website on your About Me page, don't forget to mention all of that really valuable work there as well, because, you know, it is important. And I think, you know, that's your page to talk. Really everybody, let fly, really use that page. Put your testimonials on that page. Really use that as a beautiful shop window so that you can get as much information across as possible about what you do and how what you do helps people there as well. So it's sort of like your extra, it's like an extension to your website. But don't forget, a lot of people come to the CMA website first to find a practitioner, and the more information you give them on your website, the easier it is to make a decision about whether they would like to then click that link and get through to your website or contact you via email or phone you or whatever the contact details are that you've included on the CMA website. So remember to use it. A lot of people don't use it to its full extent, and I really do strongly suggest you go back and use it. Right, okay, so moving on. My goodness, I'm sorry, I've just realized the time. Sorry, everybody. Right, I'll go through it quickly. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Sandra said, good question, Sandra. Are we covered by Balens to teach online courses? Yes, you are. You are covered to teach online. You are also covered to by Westminster as well. So, for example, if you put together an online training, and Baylan's underwriters can be a little bit funny about online trainings. So we have another insurance company, Westminster Insurance, and you can find all their details, of course, on the CMA website. Westminster are very good at covering literally anything online. Now, the one thing that we do need to say is that if you are teaching, let's, for example, body work, let's say you're teaching massage as an online course, what we need to see in order to be able to approve that course and register it and accredit it is that you're teaching the theory online, but that you would then require that person to do face-to-face, when obviously post-COVID, but you would require them to do face-to-face, because you can't just teach massage online. I'm sure you will agree. So it's really, really important that you have face-to-face trainings and practical sessions if it's something, let's say, body work, reflexology, acupuncture, and so on. So you can happily teach the theory online, but please make sure if you're putting it through the CMA, you've got the practical side covered as well. Right, okay, so I hope that helps. Carol Ann says, regarding masks, you can buy masks that are clear. And oh yes, of course you can. They're used for people that are deaf and want to lip read. Check online. Actually, of course, that's a really good idea. Charlotte, does that help? Because I think that's a brilliant response. I've forgotten about clear masks because I'm just so locked into using the mask that I use. I just pop it on I always forget about using it now. I just pop it on as a matter of course. But yes, of course you can. That's a fantastic idea. Amal says, I wear a mask and say to my clients when I do craniosacral treatment, and the clients are happy with this. My masks are pretty and fun. I also do the same for homeopathy. Clients feel safe this way. Yes, fair comment. Absolutely. Good. Sandra says, we have to remember that the particles which can hang in the airspace in the therapy room, absolutely. Keep your windows open, keep air flowing through the room. Very, very important, especially with these new, more aggressive, more virulent variants that are popping up at the moment. Pip says, I have a clear and anti-fog mask, so lip reading is easy. Pip, do you have a link to that by any chance? That could be really super. Catherine says, I keep my tarot and psychic work separate to my wellbeing centre. Fair enough. Yes, I agree. It can be mixed messaging. So yes, that makes complete sense. Carol Ann says, please could we have the details of the web designer again? Actually, Carol Ann, Sandra, thank you. You've preempted that question. Thank you so much, lovely. Joe's back in the room. Hello, Joe. Agreed, they're stunning cards. Oh, that's lovely. That's about your cards, Tracy. Joe says they're absolutely stunning cards. They really are, everybody. Do check them out. Tracy's just done the most amazing job with them. They're beautiful. So the web guy is Mark Spooner, mark@indigoinsight.me. Thanks, Roberta, you've put it there as well. Sandra says, my avatar is people who are working with their spiritual lives and come across blocks to progress, which I facilitate the transformation for. That's beautiful. My goodness. Right now, I mean, people are dramatically changing from a spiritual perspective, aren't they? I mean, my goodness, the challenges we're being faced with, just extraordinary. So my goodness, Sandra, that's beautiful work. Thank you for your contribution to everybody's wellness. It's really, really valuable. Thank you, my lovely Tracy. You've got that there, Tracy Ferris. Look at Facebook, Earthly. Is that Earthy Art Tarot Design, and her website is earthyhealthy. I love that .com, earthyhealthy.com. Right, okay. Catherine's had to go. That's fine. I know we've overrun. I'm so sorry. Westminster Insurance. Thank you, Roberta. There's the telephone number there in the chat box for you. 01305 839939. That's 01305 839939, and Baylan's telephone number is 01684 580 771. Of course, these are on the CMA website as well. Okay. Oh, Pip says, thanks, Pip, lovely. It's a rigid but short mask from Amazon. Fair enough. Okay, that's great. And Caroline has to go, but thank you. She says, thank you for a fabulous Zoom and support. Namaste. Yes, namaste. Right back to you, beautiful lady. Fab. Okay, my loves, any further questions? Because I don't want to overstay my welcome. I do appreciate you being here. You are all absolutely amazing. I honor the work that you are doing, the beauty and brilliance and healing that you are putting out into the world. You are making the most incredible difference out there. And at this particular moment in time, we're under such challenge, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally and spiritually. So please keep on keeping on. We just cherish you. Cherish the bones of you, honestly. Thank you. Take care, my lovelies. All the very, very best. Thank you, Roberta, for moderating as always. Just thank you. All the best. Lots of love. Big kisses.